Good evening, Avram.
Hey,
How are you?
uh, how's it go? All right, not bad.
In
um,
there. Boop. Hello.
hey,
Those are very blue
um,
glasses.
yeah. I mean, they're about the same as the other ones, but slightly, but not translucent, so a little
Gotcha.
different in that respect.
I like them.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I like everything this color. Um, so think about what we could talk about today. I think a decent thing to talk about would be, um, well, we could talk about, let's see, we could talk about buying a router
Okay.
because I have almost finished work on a buying guide to help people buy routers. So we could uh, we could talk about that. Um, it's a little boring, but we could talk about that. Um, the we could talk about. Oh yeah, wait a second. Do you have on our list? Do you? This seems like a topic for us.
Okay.
Did you? Did you put on your list I mean this is we have this topic's like a week or two old, but it's still on ongoing thing.
Okay.
The 3D printer bans that are being proposed.
No, it was on my list if we had done a show last week. But
Yeah,
no, I'm I'm perfectly good with that topic though.
I feel like that's a really good topic for us. For us, it's not. It's topical. It's not boring. We know something about it technically, and while it hasn't been as hot in the news the last 2 weeks, these things laws are still being proposed,
Yeah.
and we are still working on a follow up story on it too.
Should
Um,
I should
so
should I
yeah,
grab
let's do that.
should I grab mine for the back of my shot?
Grab your what? Oh, your
3D
3D
printer.
printer. Oh, which one do you have now?
Oh, it's not overstock. What's the company? Monoprice?
Oh, Monoprice. Yeah.
I think.
Monoprice doesn't make their own, so they're just
Right.
rebadging somebody's.
Yeah, it's a white labeled somebody.
Yeah. Um, but yeah. Uh,
But it was mostly just a joke about you having one over your shoulder and maybe I should have one over mine.
yeah. Yeah. Mine still needs repair.
Oh yeah.
Which maybe tonight after we get off, I'll attempt again. It's been a very frustrating experience. Once I get it working again, maybe I will. Uh, maybe I will talk about it on our show. The Because this is supposed to be an excellent printer, but I keep having problems with it. Um, anyway, yeah. So let's talk about 3D printers, the 3D printer laws that are happening, because there's a lot to say there, and there's a lot still going on there.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great topic. Did you see the other four?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, I think I have everything in place here. Just as a warning, everybody, this is our first week back after Roboticon, and we know how those shows can sometimes go. So, if there's anything weird during the live show, I apologize. I do promise I remember how to do this. Um, we'll see if that's a lie or not. All right. So, I'm going to hit record here. It's lying about how much disk space is left, I hope. Hit go here. And here we go. This week, Apple's sales drop. Blizzard's future is revealed. Sam Bankman-Fried's fate is sealed. And YouTube's terms of service are enforced. It's Sunday, November 4th, 2023, and this is episode 657 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Wherever you are and however you're joining us, whether it be on social media, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, through our live streaming services, livestream.com, Twitch, our new friends over on Kick, or on YouTube, where you can join the community and get ad-free episodes of F5 Live and Piltch Point, or of course on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio. Give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you can't join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. And of course, you'll find all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. Well, it's good to be back, Avram. We were off for way too long. Roboticon stole my October in a way that I had hoped that it wouldn't, but it did. The event was fantastic, but we had some oddities, including our FRC field not showing up until 13 hours late, which certainly made it difficult to assemble ahead of the event. But everything went well as far as the students and the participants were concerned. Nothing weird, so that was good. So how was your October?
So. I mean, lots of stress at work, at home, everywhere, everything.
Sure.
Everyone. So yeah, not the best, but hey, I'm still here. So yeah, it's,
and anytime Amazon does something big, it steals a bunch of time from you too.
Oh yeah, that too. Right. We had our other Prime Day. Now November is here, and we have, we are preparing for an onslaught of Black Friday stuff.
Yep.
That is a blast. So doing whatever
on
we
that
can.
topic, while it's temporally relevant, Walmart Plus is half price right now if people are interested. I think we have, if you go to PLUGHITZlive.com/Walmart, I think there's a 50% off deal right now, which is pretty cool. Just throwing that out there before their deals start Wednesday afternoon or something.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be a bad thing to get, because doesn't that give you free delivery on Walmart stuff?
Yeah. And Paramount Plus.
Yes. Wait, it also gives you Paramount Plus?
Yep. $49 for the year. You get free delivery from your local store. You get free delivery from the website. And you get Paramount Plus. Oh, and
what if I order
10 cents off per gallon from ExxonMobil or somebody like that? Speedway?
So that seems interesting, because I already have Paramount Plus, which is more than $50 for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Can I still use it?
Yeah.
That's we might want to do that, because my wife is always ordering stuff from Walmart, groceries and stuff like that. So if this counts for groceries, then it's a steal. Anyway.
Just, we're talking, the beginning of the onslaught of Black Friday stuff. Well, I think that deal is good for the next 2 days. So
I mean, getting those type of memberships. I mean, people have membership fatigue for sure, but
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all, we talk about subscription fatigue all the time, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's a killer, but sometimes you can go with one to eliminate another. I I have been doing some consolidation. I discovered that my cell phone plan was able to replace my Netflix for free, which was a bonus. And so I've been looking for any little bonuses like that, and this happens to be one of them. But anyway, they're not a sponsor, just a helpful hint for for viewers. But
Yeah.
we will obviously be getting into some Black Friday deals a little further into the season, but I think for now we have been off for a while and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, so it is
Yeah.
probably a good time to get down to it.
Yeah.
This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. All right. So, speaking of not Microsoft, let's go the other way and talk about Apple. A lot of things happened for Apple this week. Two primary announcements. First was the onslaught of new Macs, and the second was quarterly earnings. And interestingly, there is a correlation. During the quarterly earnings, we discovered that Mac sales were down year over year 34%. Now, I suspect that a lot of that has to do with two things. One, this quarter last year was the largest quarter for Mac sales in corporate history. So it's always going to be hard to compete with that. But they also have had a problem of there was a huge change and now it's been incremental again, right? Apple has been on Intel processors for a long time. They switched over to their own silicon. Corporate buyers, engineers, software engineers, creatives, all looked to replace their Macs from Intel to the M series. Well, now we've got them. And there hasn't been anything particularly compelling from M1 to M2 to convince anybody to upgrade. And so here we are. And from the M2 to the M3, which they announced this week, there's still nothing terribly compelling. Unless you've just got money to throw around. The difference between an M1 and an M3 in the same product category, not particularly spectacular. And so I think they saw a peak because of their technology change, and this valley is going to plateau and live here for a while. That's my personal suspicion.
Well, look, the biggest competitor to new computer sales is the existing computer that you have. Right? There's no computer that you have, like if you have a computer that's 5 years old, it might still be quite good for you. And that's the problem. That's why Microsoft came up with Windows 11 and they gave it new hardware requirements, right? I think the best thing that could happen to the computer industry is if they developed something that would self-destruct after a little while. It was just like Mission Impossible or something, and the computer would self-destruct after a year or something, and smoke would come out because these things last a long time. My colleague Matt Safford always tells me, yeah,
I'm sitting here doing the show on a first gen Surface Book.
right, exactly. So my colleague Matt Safford always says that I remember he said he was talking to somebody, I forget who it was in the industry, about desktops, and they said they hate desktops because they last too long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they
Sure.
last forever. Um, so this is what we all have to compete with. This is what the industry has to compete with, which is, hey, did you buy did you buy something 2 years ago? Well, we're not going to get you to upgrade. But I think you have to look at it more along the lines of, what about the people who didn't buy an M1 yet, didn't buy an M2 yet? Is this the time in their cycle where they will upgrade?
Sure. That's
Um,
and that's a great question, right? We're Why haven't they upgraded? That's always the question. Is it
because the old
because
one works.
right, exactly. Now, depending on the people who did upgrade, did so either because it was time to upgrade or because, like myself, uh, you have to be able to test software on the Intel and the M series because they behave incredibly differently. Right.
Yeah.
So
Also,
so some of us have very specific and weird reasons for having to have an M series. Upstairs in the office, I have an Intel, an M1, and an M2. Not because I want to, but because that's
but because
just
you have to test it,
right,
right? I mean, that's not, that's a
normal.
subsection. People who are developers who are testing things are
Right,
a really small sliver of the market, and
right.
not enough to really make or break the sales.
Although,
So
although with Apple, it is actually a surprisingly higher percent than it is with Microsoft, a Windows computer. With Apple, developers actually account for a statistically significant amount of their sales simply because if you're building anything for iPhone, you have to have a Mac in your stack, whether you like it or not. So,
yep, yep. So yeah, so I mean, and look, the platform has changed physically. So yeah, if I were a Mac user, I would want to be off of Intel, because it's like another abandoned world
right,
now. So I wouldn't want to be continuing to live in the abandoned world.
right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, people will who are still on Intel Macs will have to upgrade, but it's it's hard to get people to upgrade frequently. I mean, Apple, especially in the case of Apple, you've got a very expensive premium product, right? The
Right.
cheapest new Mac is like $1,000, I think, and that's with ridiculously low end specs that no one should buy, like 256 gig SSD.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want a serviceable Mac, you probably got to spend like 1,500 MacBook. You probably have to spend like $1,500. That's that's a lot. So that's
Yeah.
a lot to ask of people, and so they're going to hold on to these for a long time. Uh, but I think we're all faced with that dilemma, right? Like I love my ThinkPad X1 Carbon PC laptop. I have had it now for 5 years, and it still works. Like it could be faster. I'd like it to be a little bit faster, but when is the time to spend the next $1,500 to get a new one that is just iteratively better? I don't know, right?
Was was
So
that saga really 5 years ago?
time really flies, doesn't it?
Wow.
Yes, yes, yes. 2018. That's when it
Wow.
happened. 20
Okay.
2018. Yeah, I don't want to go through the saga again, but yeah. Uh, so so yeah, I mean, like, you got to either people's old computer has to be sufficiently run down that they feel like they need a new one,
Mm-hmm.
or you got to offer. a new feature that is a game changer. And like in my case, I certainly haven't seen anything that is a game changer off of the models that have come out since mine, like slightly faster processor, change the screen aspect ratio. Okay, nothing fundamentally changed. Now, and not not necessarily bad because I don't want to change for the worse. So like,
true.
But what has fundamentally changed for Mac people? I mean, the processor has fundamentally changed. So if you if you were on Intel, you probably want to get onto the new M series processor. But after that, like, what's going to fundamentally change to make you want to upgrade?
Right.
They don't even change the look. Like, they're so proud of themselves now for coming out with a black one, like with a space black. Like, I can't believe how many people were like, space black. Oh, take my money. Like, how starved are we for like aesthetic changes that people are excited about going back to a color that they've always had, that they had before in black, and that is one of the 2 or 3 colors that notebooks always come in, which are silver, gray, and black, or silver, white, and black.
Right.
Or some type of gray. Like, call me when they go back to fruit flavors. Like,
right.
I want a blueberry MacBook.
And here's the thing. They make the iMacs in those colors. So it's not like they've gone, we're not doing colors anymore. We're very monotone. The new generation of iMacs is in a whole variety of colors still. And so are the iPads. So we've already got the colored metal. So don't tell me it's a big thing. Y'all already have it. Because I'll tell you.
I mean, I think
I loved the iBooks, right? The clamshell with because they were weird. Look at me. How many? You know better than most. How many weird colored HTC and Nokia phones did I have over the years? Do I have in this room?
Right, you gotta have some fun colors. Bring some fun colors back. I mean,
yeah.
I loved the. I mean, I didn't own one, but I was sorely tempted to get an iBook because I thought it was really cool. I loved the translucent plastic look of it. The weird shape of it.
It was so 90s though. Everything was translucent.
Oh, what's wrong with translucent? Bring it back. It's time for a comeback.
Nothing's wrong with it. It was just, there is a very, very clear window of time where even home phones.
Yeah. I mean, it was a thing, right?
Yeah.
It was a thing. I remember. Now, this was more 80s and 90s, but I remember when I was in high school and junior high, Swatch, and people would get the Swatch with the clear face, and you could see the gears inside, and I was like, "That's cool. You can see it." Of course, in the PC world, build your own PC world, we're still there because most PCs that you build have a window, and we're getting, and a lot of the newer cases have 2 windows. Yeah, one down here too. And one of the new things that we're seeing a lot in the PC case space is that there's a front window also. So the side is a window, and then it wraps around, and you can see through the front too.
I have upstairs one of the cases we reviewed from Roseville a while ago is entirely tinted tempered glass, except for the back panel.
Yeah, I mean, there's a limit, right? Because you don't want to see all the ugly cables too. So
it definitely meant that I had to do very pretty cable management. And my brother's doing a build right now that's also glass on all sides, and he has gone to. Oh, I can't wait to send you pictures as soon as he's done with it.
Oh, I want to see this.
It is. I mean, it's a gorgeous cable management that he's done on this.
Oh, I want to see this. So, yeah, I mean, anyway, they should go back to colors. That's my 2 cents. But it's a tough PC market. It's a tough computer market. Apple does not target the low end of the market. And so,
Yeah.
it's nice that their new M3 is supposed to be a lot faster, and maybe they can actually make a dent a little bit in gaming, a little bit more in gaming and people being able to game on Mac. But nevertheless, it's a premium product. It's expensive. Not everyone is going to get one, and those who get one are not going to replace it that quickly.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the best future is for the computer industry in terms of getting people to upgrade more. I mean, remember the phone world where it was like when you had to wait 2 years, you kind of felt like you were really missing out on
Yep.
on things that would have like you want to upgrade your phone every month or something. But now it's like, that's fine. I can wait 3 years, 4 years, get a new phone. Like
Yeah.
it's not because the rapid, the amount of improvement that you see from one generation to the next is not significant enough
Yeah.
to really justify to. And I think we're seeing that issue with computers now. Maybe
Agreed.
people, just to stand up for my people here, maybe PC builders are the ones that we should all be targeting because they are people who want cutting edge stuff,
Yeah.
and they don't have to replace every piece every year. So you could say, oh, you know what, this is the year that I'm going to upgrade my video card. This is the
Sure.
year that this is the month I'm going to upgrade my RAM or whatever. By giving people the flexibility to do more upgrades, you encourage people to buy things more often, I think. But in the vast majority of the computer market is laptops, and then maybe pre-built desktops, and then build your own PC. So,
Hmm.
um, for those folks, it's really all about like they're going to replace the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like you said, you know, I'm I'm sitting here, my everyday laptop is a first gen Surface Book, which is a 6000 series processor, right? It's this thing's been around forever and it continues to do what I need. And so, here we are. My desktop in my office is probably the newest, and I think it's a second gen Threadripper. So, I mean, even it's not new.
Right? Exactly.
So, you know, it's affecting everybody, but that number in particular, 34%, that is a huge drop in computer sales, and I suspect I suspect it is because of the bump in sales because of the M series, and now we're back to a pretty normal, because it's about the amount that the sales increase was with the the release of the M series processors. So I think they had a peak because of that, and we have plateaued back to normal. They've come back to earth. So obviously we'll see, but I suspect that that's exactly where we are. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to pilchpoint.live/PureVPN. I'm just now realizing how much the new PureVPN logo and the splash image on YouTube for the Piltch Point are similar. Anyway, uh, we've been away for a number of weeks, and in that time, some interesting stuff has happened, and in particular, something around one of your kind of passion topics, 3D printing.
Yeah. So let me paint a little picture for you. You go to the store. Let's say it's Micro Center, uh, and for those who don't live near one of the 27 Micro Center stores in the U.S., I'm sorry, because it's a wonderful, awesome store that sells all kinds of computing devices, components, maker stuff, Raspberry Pis, and most importantly, 3D printers. So let's say you go to the store, you go to that store or another store or even an online store. You put a 3D printer in your cart, physical or virtual, take it up to the cash register, say, ring me up, I'm buying this 3D printer. And they say, hold on a second, we need to do a criminal background check on you. What? A criminal background check to buy a 3D printer? What kind of world is this?
Well,
Well,
you might be 3D printing Mario figurines, and Nintendo wants. No, that's not it.
so what is going on? Well, what is going on is that there hasn't happened yet, but there is a law that was proposed here in New York State, and there's another law that's fairly similar, but not exactly the same, that has already passed in California, that limit the sale of 3D printers. And the one in New York would require anyone who wants to buy a 3D printer to go through a criminal background check that, according to the way the law was written, could take as long as 15 days. So you could, I don't know, pull up there and be like, oh, I'd like to buy my Bamboo Lab 3D printer. Really would like to have this home today so I could start printing some cool stuff. I'm sorry, we're going to have to write a note to we're going to have to, run it through and send a note to the New York State Board of, I forget which New York State board it is, but it's the same procedure that they would use for a gun background check. Although it's a little weird because I believe that gun background checks can be done electronically in a few minutes. So maybe they would figure out how to do it electronically in a few minutes with the printers too. But to take a step back, why would they even do this? Why would you need a criminal background check for that? We don't need a criminal background check for everything else we buy. I don't need a criminal background check to buy a keyboard. I don't need a criminal background check to buy a CPU. So what's up? Well, as we know, 3D printers can be used to print gun parts. And so the fear is that 3D printers are dangerous because you could print a gun with them, and therefore we need to regulate them like we regulate guns. And I don't want to get into, if I can help it, talking about whether it's a good idea to regulate guns like this. I know there's quite a lot of people probably in their audience are like, hey, they shouldn't be regulating guns either. And I don't want to discuss that. Let's just assume for a second that, let's just talk about the kind of the chilling effect on 3D printing, and if it has the same effect on guns. But the premise of the law is that it's not every 3D printer, it's any 3D printer that could be used to print gun parts. But here's where the person who wrote the law shows their complete ignorance of technology. Any 3D printer can print a gun. There's no special there's no special gun printer. You can find the 3D imaging files online. You can use any normal 3D printer. You could use $100 Creality printer. You could use an expensive one like this Bamboo Lab one that I have behind me. It doesn't matter. Now there's an interesting question, which is how much of a danger are the guns that people do 3D print? Like, how good are they at being guns? And I've read some really mixed things about this. And I totally admit that I'm not a gun person. I'm very ignorant about guns. I'm trying to get, I'm having someone write a story about this for us where they're going to actually, hopefully, 3D print some samples and take them to the range and see how they fare. But my understanding is for most of the guns, you can't 3D print the entire gun. You can 3D print the outside of the gun, which is what you see, but you still need a metal barrel, like a metal chamber, a metal pin, a metal trigger. Like the core components still have to be metal. And for those who aren't big into 3D printing, you can't really 3D print metal. Like there's some $10,000 or $20,000 printers that will print metal for you, but then you still have to send the metal pieces to some factory to be finished. So 3D printing metal is very prohibitive. Like it's not easy at all. So realistically speaking, for most of the 3D guns that people are making, the parts that you see and touch, like the handle and the nose and whatever, those are all plastic and look like they came from the 3D printer, but you still can't make the gun without these metal pieces that you have to buy separately. Although I have seen that there was one or two models there, they said, every single piece of it can be plastic. However, my understanding of those is that they don't work very well. Like they'll explode after one shot. So, this is, do we think this law that has been proposed in New York is going to go anywhere? I hope not, but in California, there is a law, AB 1089, that passed. And it's not at all clear to me what is actually going to happen here. So it says, AB 1089, this is actually passed and was signed into law by the governor like in September. Says somewhere here about, I'm trying to find the exact quote, prohibits any person from, okay, so for one, it says, now this is criminalizing conduct rather than a product, which I certainly think it's better to criminalize conduct than criminalize an object that has many uses. It says if you use a 3D printer or CNC milling machine to make a firearm, you have to be a licensed manufacturer. I mean, okay, that doesn't really affect regular 3D printer users. But it says here, the bill would add three-dimensional printers and CNC milling machines to the definition of firearm-related products. And it says somewhere on here that any 3D printer whose primary purpose is making a gun is illegal or requires, right, a person who before July 1st, 2024 possessed a three-dimensional printer that has the sole or primary function of manufacturing firearms. Right, so you can't get a 3D printer that has the sole or primary function of manufacturing firearms. But again, that's an extremely ignorant statement, because I have not seen anywhere somebody marketing a 3D printer as this is the gun printer. I mean, somebody could come out and say like, this is the gun printer, but realistically, they don't need to do that because any 3D printer can do the same thing. There's no special gun feature that you need to 3D print the gun parts. So anyway,
from what I understand, in the case of the California law, if It's about intention of the person, not intention of the hardware. If you have purchased a CNC, a mill, or a 3D printer with the intention of, 50.1% of its usage being producing gun parts, then you have to be a registered manufacturer and all this other stuff. So, it becomes a really easy thing to get around. You just print, castles when it's not printing gun parts.
I mean, who's going to track what you're printing at home anyway? Like,
Right.
I mean,
It's a nearly unenforceable law,
yeah,
and it's unlikely to change anything because the only people who are going to self-enforce are the people who wouldn't be doing anything illegal
right.
with it anyway.
Yeah. So my concern about this, so these laws seem pretty, I mean, the problem is, right, it's putting up a barrier in the way of people buying a product that is good, that is something that is good for kids. Like 3D printers are good for schools and libraries and STEM education. And if we start criminalizing them, we're going to be taking opportunities away from like young people to use them for educational purposes. Because I feel like this is a slippery slope too. Like, who goes through the background check if a school is buying it?
Right.
Like, who is it? The teacher? Is it the principal?
Well,
and then
let me throw it one interesting step further. Do the laws about transferring a weapon from personal to personal apply here? So if I buy it to donate to a school, do we have to then do the background check again during a transition, like you do with a weapon?
I think but there's a loophole there for weapons in most states, right? For private sales.
Depends.
Of course, we will end up using all the same technology, right? Is it the 3D printer show loophole?
Right.
I mean, all the same things that apply to the way people buy guns. Oh, and that actually leads to another point, which I keep reading and hearing every time I investigate this, which is that it really isn't very convenient to 3D print guns if you're just looking to get a gun to commit a crime. Like there are easier ways to get a gun, and a well-manufactured one at that, than to 3D print it. If you're 3D printing it, you're 3D printing it because you, I don't know, like the idea of it, or you like the craftsmanship, or
it's a novelty.
Whatever. It's a novelty. You think you want to, I don't know, stick it to the government in some way, whatever. But no, I mean, I've seen. I'm not saying that facetiously. Like, I've seen people saying things like that, like, this way they don't know what I have. But I mean, I think there's a lot of ways under the current patchwork of laws that people can get guns that are undetectable. So, it's not. Anyway, the bottom line is, whether you think it's okay for people to 3D print guns or not, trying to attack the 3D printing technology itself is very fraught. Like, it's one of these laws that I saw, I'm not sure if it's a California one, actually had me cracking up because, let me see if I have here. One of the laws had a list of all of the other weapons that you can't 3D print besides guns. And there were a whole bunch of things on there that the person who wrote it clearly didn't know the right name for. So they're like, no Kung Fu stars. Right? Now, isn't that a ninja star? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm not up on it, but when I was a kid, we used to call them the ninja star.
Yeah.
Or shuriken or whatever. Like,
I suspect that there was a level of PC compliance in the phrasing that they went with there.
You can't print. It had like a whole bunch of things on it. I had to find, like, you can't print a Kung Fu star. You can't print a nunchucking, or like the way they spelled it. It wasn't like, I always refer them as nunchucks, but it was like the
Right.
way that they spelled it was just all
Either
wrong or whatever.
either they didn't know enough or they know way more than we do. Either way, they've alienated themselves in the article.
It's just so bad. Like, no like Rambo knives, no like, I don't know. Every single thing I wanted to play with when I was 11 years old is banned.
Yeah.
So no samurai swords. That like it was like a laundry list of every possible weapon. One of
Oh,
them was sandbags. I didn't realize sandbags were a weapon. Um,
sandbags?
yeah, one of the things in the list was you can't. Also, you can't 3D print a sandbag, but that's
Right.
another
I was to say,
story.
so there's
But
two
like,
problems there. One, are we talking about like bean bags, the little ones that can be shot out of the beanbag guns?
I don't know what they mean.
And
I know what it says.
and either way, I mean 3D printing a bag is not really going to happen. That's you're going to be using a sewing machine for fabric.
Right, right. I mean, this whole thing is ludicrous. I guess that's my overall point. Is you know, it is, is how ludicrous it is. So anyway, I wish I have to find the list. It was one of the other New York laws, I think, that had this, where they're not banning 3D printers, they're banning 3D. Oh, and this is another interesting question, which I think is going to be resolved by courts, because there are laws. I think one did may have passed in New York about distributing 3D printed, distributing the 3D models that allow you to make a gun. So you can have so
That's interesting.
under that law, it's not the 3D printer that they're targeting; it's the files, right?
All right.
And I think we have an
That's
interesting question about whether that's a violation of the First Amendment.
I
Whether the
mean
First Amendment gives you the right to show people how to make a weapon.
I mean if you want to talk about a law that's less enforceable than the somebody's intention over what they're going to 3D print, files over the internet, talk to the child online safety, the COPA police about how nearly impossible it is unless you have had the files in your possession to start with, how nearly impossible it is to enforce any of that.
Yeah,
I've been reading about like the AI generated stuff, like the high school, somewhere up in the Northeast, I think, where the kids were generating images of their classmates. We'll just go with that. Um, if somebody hadn't told a teacher, it never would have been known, let alone addressable. It's so hard to police online file distribution.
yeah,
A-
it really
Ask
is. Oh, here we go.
ask Ria that sued a grandmother who only had a Mac for using software that was only available on PC.
Here we go. This hasn't passed yet. This one. This is New York Assembly Bill A7489, which is not the one that bans the 3D printer itself, but uh, that bans you from manufacturing things. So if you look at item 10 on this list, any person who intentionally sells, distributes, or disposes of by any means, including via the internet, digital instructions in the form of computer-aided design files, standard triangle tessellation language files, or other code or instructions that may be used to program a three-dimensional printer to manufacture or produce any machine gun, assault weapon, large capacity ammunition, feeding device, disguised gun, ghost gun, unfinished frame or receiver, firearm, silencer, magazine, or major component of a firearm or rifle or shotgun is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. But wait, the other thing here it says is uh, any person who manufactures or causes to be manufactured any rapid-fire modification device is guilty of a Class C felony. Any person who manufactures or causes to be manufactured any switchblade knife, pilum ballistic knife, metal knuckle knife, undetectable knife, billy, blackjack, bludgeon, plastic knuckles, metal knuckles, kung fu star, chuck-a-stick, sandbag, sand club, or slingshot is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor.
I'm sorry, did they conjugate that one in the past tense? Slungshot?
Yeah, no, I looked this up. I was like, oh, is that a mistake? There's such a thing as a slingshot.
Okay.
It is like a slingshot, but it is not a slingshot.
But it happened in the past?
It is a maritime tool. Google it.
Oh, I'm looking at it.
It looks a lot like kerbangers or something.
It looks like one of those bungee loops that when you're putting a tent together.
Yeah.
But it's made out of rope instead, which does seem like it would be difficult to 3D print.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to just 3D print the balls at the end of it that you use to whack people or whatever? Like, this is I don't know. I just feel like this is a little bit. I
love that Bing's
crazy.
Like, I think you must have meant slingshot, right? There's the Wikipedia article at the top for slingshot, and then everything else is like, well, here's how to make a slingshot. That must be what you meant, right?
Yeah, so they said chuck-a-stick, right? Yeah, so I always call them nunchucks, but apparently here they call it a chuck-a-stick. I don't know if you get caught manufacturing a throwing.
I have to give a headline here. The monkey fist's nasty cousin, the slingshot. The monkey fist? This conversation has gone off the rails, and I'm so happy about it, Avram.
Yeah. Also, the other thing that was on, do you notice the other thing that was on there was plastic knuckles. Was it plastic knuckles?
Uh-huh.
Not metal knuckles, plastic knuckles.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how brittle 3D printing stuff is?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you punch someone, it's gonna break on you. Like, it's not gonna last.
Yeah, because it even under the best of conditions, there's too much flex in it.
Yeah,
that it's gonna come back into you. Under the worst of conditions, it shatters into your fingers. Either way, the other person doesn't know that it happened.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we could get somebody who's like an expert on, I don't know, plastic and metal knuckles to talk about it. But the comprehensiveness of this list is kind of funny. Like, so wait, what weapon didn't they say that you could use? Also, undetectable knife. Isn't any knife undetectable if you hide it? Like, what is an undetectable knife?
I suspect they mean a knife that can go through a metal detector. I think that's what they're going for. But the weird both specificity and vagueness of this list is fascinating because it is somehow both vague and specific.
Yes, exactly.
So
when I print a throwing star and I get arrested for it, my defense will be that it is actually not a kung fu star at all. It is a ninja star and therefore allowed.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just what a weird specificity. They could have just said throwing star, but they had to they had to stick a martial art there. So anyway. Well, anyway, not to distract everybody about this, but
they could have just said something like offensive knuckle guard or something. Right. They didn't, and then it would have covered all materials.
Yes, I mean, to be fair, this is already kind of an overreaching thing, right? So they do have to be somewhat specific. because if they said anything that could be used as a weapon, then they're banning anything, because you could like take a toy and whack someone over the head with it and call it a weapon. I mean, right?
On American Dad, Francine shoved a shoe down Roger's throat to prove that anything could be a weapon.
Yeah, anything can be a weapon. So I know this is terrible, but we like to joke about this a little bit. Not that we joke about weapons all the time at Tom's Hardware, but our deputy managing editor Paul, one time he was on a plane with someone, and you get a weird person sitting next to you on the plane that just wants to talk. So he got a weird guy in the plane, just starts to talk, and was trying to talk to him about like, hey, if this plane gets taken over, here are all the things you could use for self-defense. And he started to talk about how USB cables are a great form of self-defense.
Okay. So here's the thing. They are. They absolutely are, because of the way they're manufactured. The with the braiding and everything like that, they're actually a fantastic.
That's the braided one, right?
Yeah. Well, no, not even on the outside. The way the cable is on the inside actually makes them strong. Obviously, one with a fabric on the outside, an actual braided cable, will be even better. But yeah, they are weirdly strong against pressure.
Oh, okay.
I had a company at CES talk about it one time, about the strength, and we got into it like this. The conversation went off the rails. It wasn't on camera, but the conversation went a little off the rails.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, what was I trying to say here? So the point is that there's some, there's a lot going on here with people who want to kind of regulate and criminalize 3D printers because of the potential to use them to make weapons. But these things seem extremely unrealistic, both in their view of how 3D printers work and the type of things that people do with them, and whether this is actually going to help anybody, keep anybody safe. So, I guess we need to, those of us who care about being able to buy a 3D printer and have the freedom to use it, need to be, on the lookout, because this it could have a very chilling effect. I mean, if you're saying that if you're saying that as an adult I need to go through a criminal background check to buy a 3D printer, then presumably they're not safe to be available in public places, right? Like, there's a lot of libraries that let people come use a 3D printer. Are you going to need to have a background check to use the library? Are children who are under 18 who, I mean, are they going to be allowed to use a 3D printer? Like, there's just so much, like, to turn something like that into, a kind of prohibited, restricted object seems really, really misguided to me. There's so many other tools that exist in the world, and we don't criminalize them.
Yeah.
Your computer is for hacking, but we don't criminalize buying a computer.
Right. It reminds me a lot of, there was the incident here in Florida where there was a preschool where one of the teachers duct taped a couple of kids to a wall, and then all of a sudden any retailer in the country that sold duct tape had to get and scan an ID to sell duct tape. Yeah, it
really?
I was at Radio Shack at the time. Yes. We had to scan IDs for duct tape to the point where we stopped selling it because it was such a pain in the butt.
Right, that's what's going to happen.
Right, the liability was just so ridiculous, and the amount of training they had to go into how to sell duct tape.
Right, so that's something I was going to say, and I won't belabor this forever, but yeah, it has a chilling effect on the people who might want to sell it, because now, and it would add to cost as well, right?
Yeah.
Because if they're going to have to conduct the background check, they're going to pass that cost to you. Now, I don't know how much it is, but they're going to pass it to you. I read somewhere that for handguns, it's something like $15 in New York State. So
Okay.
I guess not that bad, but still, like, I I guess maybe $15 isn't that much if you're buying a $300 printer, but like it's a tax. But beyond that, you're gonna have like I can't like you're gonna have to make sure that the cashiers there are trained to do this. Presumably, they're gonna have to get somebody like gun stores are probably used to doing this by now, right? They're used to background checking people and following local laws. But Micro Center is not. Micro Center is probably, Best Buy is not. They are probably, I don't know if Best Buy sells any 3D printers, but even if they sell one, and if they sell only a handful, then they're definitely going to stop because it's not worth it.
So it's going to limit the availability.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely going to limit the availability. It's going to slow things down. It's going to slow people down. It's absolutely going to hurt sales. And then also you've got other, like a lot of 3D printers you're ordering from companies, like a lot of the major 3D printer companies are in China. So if you're ordering direct from their website, like from Creality or Bamboo Lab, they may have warehouses in the US, but are they really going to be set up to do a background check on their website? It's
right.
Some companies may just stop selling their product in the US if it's this or in that state. Maybe it's like, oh, it's only New York State. Fine, we'll write off New York State, and this New York State can't buy from us anymore. Like,
yeah,
it's a very slippery slope.
That creates the same weird scenario like when Keurig released the Keurig drink thing, right? At CES you could buy them, and several of our team members did, and one of our team members had to have it shipped to a family member because it couldn't be shipped into their state. I'm leaving genders entirely out so nobody can pin down who I'm talking about, but simply because for whatever reason the laws were set up such that they could not have it sent to their home, but they could just over the state line in another state. So all of a sudden, buying things online goes back to having these weird state level laws. Alcohol companies are used to it. And like you said, firearm companies, know how to deal with this stuff. But just like Radio Shack and duct tape, we didn't know how to deal with any of that. And within a year, compressed air and duct tape both went on the have to have a ID to purchase it list. And we didn't know how to deal with it because our systems weren't set up for it.
Right, exactly. Now you're turning everybody into a background check person, and that's very, very problematic.
Yeah. And, if you're looking at a $99, cheapo 3D printer, adding the cost onto that becomes significant. Just like, with firearms, a $15 cost on a Walther PPK you're not going to notice, but on a P22 you will, because they're far less expensive.
Yep.
So.
Yep, absolutely. Anyway, so keep an eye out. I don't know if these are going to pass. I don't know if these would even pass muster in a court. But it's a little scary to me as someone who 3D prints that
they will certainly be challenged immediately. The California one, I don't think, since it doesn't go into effect until January 1st, I don't know that it can be challenged yet. I think you have to be able to show harm, and if it hasn't gone into effect, I don't know if you can. But my guess is at 12:01 January 1st, somebody's going to file a complaint.
It seems It seems unenforceable though, the California one, because
Yeah, it
you'd
does.
have to actually try to get someone to enforce it, but you'd have to prove intent, and it's
Hmm.
I think, I mean, I guess you'd have to find someone who was like running a store where they made the guns or something. But like as far as at the point of sale of like
Yeah.
buying a gun, I mean not buying a gun, buying a 3D printer, they really can't tell what it is that you are doing with it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's we'll see. I think, there's a significant gun lobby, but what I don't know is if there's a significant 3D printer lobby. Um,
Sure.
so so if so I don't know if, a lot of 3D printers are made by non-US companies.
Hmm.
They probably don't know, you know, they probably don't have lobbyists to lobby in favor of their selling $99 printers or whatever. So
Right.
I don't know.
It's definitely going to be an interesting one to follow, and I suspect that you guys have been and will continue following this story.
Yes, so I'm trying to, so we have been following it. You can read about it on Tom's Hardware, and we're actually going to try learning a little bit about the process of 3D printing a gun. I can't do it because it's actually is illegal here in New York for me to 3D print a gun.
Hmm.
But we have someone working on it in a state that is not where it is not. Um, so anyway, we will hopefully we'll learn some more.
Very cool. It's a fascinating thing. I have seen a lot on 3D printed guns. It's a fascinating topic, and watching what's been going on has been equally fascinating, but from a very different standpoint. Because you know, there's there's danger in it for, like you said, a number of reasons, not the least of which is the educational standpoint. But as always, Avram, I appreciate the interesting topic, and I always look forward to what we talk about next. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. So in our downtime, something big happened. The acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft was finalized, and as such, this year's BlizzCon, which just wrapped up, is an interesting line in the sand. It is the last BlizzCon where what was talked about and what was announced theoretically had no influence from Microsoft, and also the first one under Microsoft's ownership, even though it's only been a couple of weeks. While Microsoft's influence was not yet felt, their presence was, as the head of Xbox was there as part of the opening keynote. Phil Spencer made some references, which may or may not have been offhanded and almost certainly were casual comments about what is to come under the Microsoft banner. He gave a shout out to StarCraft, which we have not heard anything about in quite some time. He also said Game Pass, but not in any, direct or official capacity. And so almost certainly, talking about indicating the inevitability of Blizzard games being available through Game Pass. But what he did do was talk about what he hopes will be a fruitful relationship between Blizzard and Microsoft, and that Blizzard will be able to grow in the way that it did under its own ownership before Activision with Microsoft. But that was all secondary to what BlizzCon is all about, and that's about the games. And lots of stuff was announced. For me and some of the other staff around here, particularly Adam, one of the original hosts of the show, World of Warcraft has lore again. Lore that matters, because we have Chris Metzen back at the helm of story, or so it seems, because they have a long plan for the game, 3-year major story arc, which is fantastic. The Warcraft lore is old. It well predates World of Warcraft. I was a ranked Warcraft 2 player in high school 25 plus years ago. But there was a lot of story behind it. If you played the actual campaign, there was a lot of story in the world. And over the last couple of years, it's not been that much. It's mostly been, hey, look at me. I'm going to tell people to do things. So the story's kind of sucked. It looks like that's not going to be the case, which is great. Overwatch 2 has new heroes coming. We have Mauga, which is the official one. Then that is coming soon. Then we've got 2 more, Venture and Space Ranger that are coming seasons 8 and 10, or 10 and 12, sorry. Diablo 4 has big DLC coming next year, so they're not giving up on that one. What I got from all of this is that Blizzard is both trying again, which it has not quite felt has been the case over the last couple of years, both for the gamers and for Microsoft. I think they tried to put on a big showing of what's to come because they wanted to make sure that, Phil Spencer, who was in the room, was impressed by what was coming, but also that gamers saw that they were committed to the old Blizzard, even though ownership was changing again. That was my big takeaway. And as somebody who has, again, Warcraft 2 was one of my first passion games and got me into true competitive gaming in the 90s. I've long been a fan of Blizzard, and I've felt that under Activision's oversight, they became more Activision-y and less the Blizzard that fans had come to love. But over the last year, Diablo 4 feels like Blizzard, which is great. And it seems like they want that to continue, which I'm very excited about. We know they had their troubles, a year and a half ago? They had to let some higher ups go. There was a toxic environment going on that had been there for a while, give or take about the time that there had been content problems within the company. So I think they really wanted to shake all of that off and show that they care. I don't know if you've been following how connected you are with Blizzard, Avram, or how much you've been following this, but
No, not a ton, but I think it's great that they are trying to go back to the core and please the core audience
Hmm.
because I mean that's what they're going to need to do to grow and survive. Like I don't know, is how is World of Warcraft's growth these days?
It's not been great. Interestingly, from what I can tell, World of Warcraft Classic has actually had more growth, and that's because people miss the old days of the game having story and lore and the original gameplay. So, for those who don't know, World of Warcraft Classic is just the original game. So, what they released nearly 2 decades ago now, but in a modern engine.
Yeah,
So there's been a lot of growth over there, and on WoW Prime, not so much. It seems to be pretty stagnant, if not decreasing. There's people like my brother who will always play. People like my high school friend Corey, who will always play. She may come and go from the game, but she will always play. But there's a lot of people that seem to have given it up, either in favor of other games or just getting out of MMOs altogether because they were, disenchanted by what had happened in WoW. But
yeah,
but Diablo 4 has been huge. They've done great with it. It has looked like and felt like Diablo, which was fantastic to see.
yeah.
Having a friend on
Well,
the
it's good to
team,
see.
makes me even happier that it looks and feels like the other Diablo games, just modernized with all the great lore and stuff that Diablo is known for. So
Yeah,
it's always
I
good to
mean
see
it's
a
it.
franchise not go, because it could have gone the Call of Duty way, right? Where we
Yeah,
don't really care about story, we don't really care about lore. In the old days, under the original, the founders, Call of Duty was very story driven, and now it's just become you know a shooter running on the same engine that nothing really changes from year to year. Oh, there's new maps, but we could have done that without calling it Modern Warfare 3. You know, it's gone. It basically it's gone the way of EA Sports titles, right? It's just an incremental thing. We don't care about much except you buying the new one, and they didn't do that. They could have, and they didn't. So, yeah, but I mean, look at what happened with Overwatch 2. None of the things they promised with Overwatch 2 actually happened, except the shutdown of Overwatch 1. And gamers are really unhappy with how that's gone. And most of Overwatch 2 was done under the tutelage of the people that are gone now. So we may even, who knows, under Microsoft, we may even see the things that were originally promised for Overwatch 2 come to fruition, because it seems like, in addition to Blizzard caring about being Blizzard, Microsoft seems to care about Blizzard being Blizzard and not Actiblizz, right? Which, that time period, nobody wanted that to happen, except, Bobby Kotick, who, by the way, will not be with the company after the end of the year, which I think will
Yep,
make everybody at Activision and Blizzard very happy.
yep. Sounds like.
I don't know
Sounds like.
anybody inside or outside of the company who's sad about that decision. So, good job, Phil Spencer.
Yep.
But we'll see how all of this goes over the next couple of years. Obviously, game development cycles are not short; they are incredibly long, especially with titles as big as the IP that Blizzard owns that have been around for decades. StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo, they all originate in the 90s. They've got a lot of history behind them, and under the right leadership, the next couple of years could look really good we will see at BlizzCon 2024 what Microsoft's influence starts to look like. What I hope we will not see is, the Funko Popification of Gears of War, which is absolutely something that Microsoft did. Hopefully, Blizzard is supposed to be able to operate semi-independently with influence and resources from Microsoft, and hopefully that will end up with the best of both worlds. Fingers crossed. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. A year ago this week, the third largest crypto exchange in the world, FTX, collapsed, seemingly suddenly, almost overnight. It's because of a report on November 2nd of 2022 that showed that the founder and a company that he owned the majority of the coin from FTX. That report caused people to start pulling their funding out, both selling of the FTX digital coin and the transferring of assets out of FTX into private wallets, into other exchanges. And what that ended up doing was exposing that there were billions of dollars worth of resources, worth of Bitcoin, among others, missing. If I remember correctly, the number was something like $9 or $12 billion worth of assets were just nowhere to be found. As people started to pull out, FTX shut down trading. If that sounds familiar, that's what Silicon Valley Bank did. And, when there was a run, they just halted. We saw it with GameStop and AMC a couple years ago during the pandemic. We saw it with FTX as well. Basically, they were in this case, they were trying to prevent the exposure of how many assets they had of customers they had transferred out of the company and into another one, and then had lost because the value of the tokens that they had transferred them into were plummeting, all because of the same report. So the executive leadership has been under both investigation and now charges for quite some time, and this week, interestingly, on the 1-year anniversary of the report, Sam Bankman-Fried, the former CEO of the corporation and the one who was holding assets out of the company in another company, was convicted on all 7 charges. And let me tell you, with maximum sentencing, on all 7 charges, he is facing 110 years in prison. That is a lot of time. Now, again, somewhere between $9 and $12 billion went missing. It is a lot of money. This has been compared in scope and scale to Bernie Madoff, who also was sentenced to essentially life in prison, although for him that, I think, ended up amounting to about 6 years. But Sam Bankman-Fried is a fairly young guy. 110 years is going to be a life sentence for sure. And the judge at the beginning of the trial said, I think the exact quote was, if convicted, you are looking at a very long sentence. And that judge is responsible for sentencing here. So I think there's two things going on here. One, Fried screwed up massively and knew what he was doing the whole time. And also, the government wants to make very clear to the crypto industry that they will be prosecuting fraud. I think those two things are happening here concurrently.
Yeah, but speaking of concurrently, I don't think he's going to get a 110-year sentence. Because, I don't know, I was reading about this recently with how sentences work, and it seems that a lot of the times the sentences are concurrent, which means, in effect, that it's worthless because, if you get, 5 different crimes that are 20 years, and they're like, yeah, you're serving those 20 years all at the same time, it's as good as having committed one crime that's 20 years. Mm-hmm. They don't tack it on. So my guess is that he's not going to get 110 years. Maybe he'll get 20 years. Now, listen, I wouldn't want to be in jail for 20 years.
Sure.
But I don't, the bottom line is you don't actually know it's a life sentence till he dies, right? Because he could still get out, right?
Right. 110 years consecutive would certainly be, for somebody in his 30s, would almost certainly be a life sentence unless he gets out early.
Yeah, but there's all these parole things.
Right.
And, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of these things are like you could serve, you can only serve 50% of the time before you're up for parole.
Right.
And granted 110, if it was 50% of that, it'd be 55 years, which is a really long time. So
still puts him into his late 80s, I think.
Yes. Well, I don't know. Let's be fair. I probably won't be alive to find out if he's getting out after 55 years either. So, but yeah, look, he's going to go to jail for a long time.
Yeah,
that's good.
They have a very large book, and they are throwing it directly at his head.
Good. Good, because if he gets out, he will probably start a new venture.
Yeah, Firefest too. Wait.
Didn't Michael Milken become a big deal after he got out for insider trading, and Ivan Boesky and all those guys who were big insider traders or whatever in the 80s? They got out and they were able to go right back to what they were doing.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Billy McFarland went to prison for Fire Festival, and they're doing a second one.
Look, what's his name? Jim Baker.
I guess technically they're doing a first one since the first one didn't actually happen.
Happen. People never learn, and by the people who never learn, I mean the suckers who will buy into these things. In another vein, I think Jim Baker, the televangelist who was made all this news in the 80s or whatever for taking all the money and using it to buy air-conditioned dog houses or whatever.
Yeah,
is still I think he's still doing it. I think he's still at it. New wife, and he's still doing it. So you can't win. Hopefully he goes away for a while. All I can say is don't invest. Be careful where you invest.
For sure. And a reminder: you should not be storing your cryptocurrency in an exchange. You should only have your assets in the exchange when you are exchanging. It's not a bank. It's not where you hold things. You put it there, then you pull it to a wallet outside of an exchange so that this kind of thing doesn't happen. Your currency should not live in the exchange. You're not getting interest. You're not. That's not how this thing works. Put it into the wallet, make your transfer, pull it back. Plain and simple. Then you don't have to worry about any of this.
Be careful.
Yeah, for sure. Understanding the technology is an important aspect of this, and a lot of people don't. And there was the everybody wants to invest in Bitcoin boom, and that put a lot of people's money into assets that they didn't understand where it was or how it was. And I know this is the second time we've mentioned Radio Shack tonight, but when we were at the store, we had a lock on our security cage in the back, and our district manager always said that's not there to prevent a thief, because a thief's going to steal it. It's to keep honest people honest. When there's something that's too good to be true, people tend to jump at it. Whether it be the people who were investing in Bitcoin without understanding it, or the management of FTX seeing those assets just sitting there and thinking, well, we could take those, invest them in something else, and make our own money, and then when they want it back, we can just transfer it back, which was obviously a terrible idea as well. And if the people didn't store their crypto in the exchange but kept it in their own private wallets, the red light going, hey, look, there's things here, wouldn't have been there, and they wouldn't have been able to even do this scheme in the first place. So understanding what it is you're investing in, whether it be cryptocurrency or any other asset, stocks and bonds, and understanding it is paramount. So like you said, hopefully he will see enough time to make it clear to anybody else who thinks this scheme is a good idea to stop them from doing it. That's send a good message to future potential schemers. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that you get free shipping on millions of products with Amazon Prime, but you get a whole lot more. Like free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video, free games, and a free Twitch subscription to support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming, plus a whole lot more. We've got links to all of these features and some of our favorites, plus a 30-day free trial, all by going to f5live.tv/prime. Over the years, we've talked a lot about ad blockers, the problems that they create, both for content creators and publishers. And this week, YouTube has started to really enforce their terms of service. The YouTube terms of service have long stated that ad blockers are not allowed. That's a violation of the usage of the website. And they have tried, basically, since Google purchased the platform, they've tried to figure out ways here and there to deal with them. And they have gotten very heavy-handed this week with notifications coming up on the screen that says, you are not allowed to use this site. They will not show you any content anymore unless you turn off the ad blocker or purchase YouTube Premium. It's understandable. I understand how we get here. We've talked about this, again, many times. The publishers, content creators, the way free content exists is we don't ask you for money. We ask you for a small amount of your attention before, during, after, or around the content. Tom's Hardware, PLUGHITZ Live, we produce a lot of content, and that content is made available to you without having to pay a subscription. Now, we offer subscriptions maybe for bonus content and things like that, but we produce a lot of content. This show, we make this available for everybody. This takes a lot of time to produce, and we do that because of advertising. We ask for a little bit of attention at the top. You heard about Amazon Prime. And with ad blockers, that revenue goes away, which makes it impossible or certainly more difficult to produce any of this content. And that's essentially the position that Google/YouTube has found itself in here. And they have decided, after years of trying to fight this, to go heavy-handed, and I get it. And they are diligently working to find and work their way around workarounds. Because there was a workaround if you set your user agent string in your browser to Windows Phone, all of a sudden you could still use an ad blocker. But I guess once the tech sites wrote about it, Google fixed it. But I understand both sides, right? Ad blockers have their purposes. Some ads can be malicious. I mean, we remember famously Yahoo serving malicious ads. Even G4 got hit by it because Yahoo was serving ads for G4 at the time. They can slow down a site if they're not implemented correctly. They can change the experience. We've had it. Google started changing the way ads showed up on our website, and the ads were coming up above the menu, which was a terrible experience. I get it. But it's how we all pay the bills. So it's a difficult balancing act between the advertisers and the publishers not totally screwing up the experience for the listener, viewer, reader, whatever, and being able to pay the bills. I know this is very passionate for you.
Yes. So I support what YouTube is doing 100%.
Yep.
And I will add that I think everybody should do what YouTube is doing. I think other sites like I'm just speaking on behalf of myself and not my employer who makes these decisions. So I want to make that really clear. I think publishers should do it too. And they could. They could. The technology is absolutely out there to block people from visiting sites if they have ad blocker on. The reason why most sites don't do it is because they're in a little bit of a catch-22. They want to say that they have the traffic. They want to have the audience numbers. So they don't want people to walk away because they want their audience number. They want to see that number. And depending on what is being blocked, there may still be ways of monetizing that person, although not through ads. So it might be, for example, that your site has a list of recommended products to buy, right, at your page, and then the person clicks on one and you get a commission. Well, even though that person blocked all the ads, they didn't block the commerce links, and they clicked on one and you made money off of them that way. So unfortunately you can't win, right? If you block people, then you're losing your overall audience, which you like to have, and then you're also, for just because that could affect things like your ComScore rank and other things that you use to sell ads, right? And then you're also losing, but on the other hand, you're also losing the possibility of getting those people to buy something that they might buy via your site, and you might make money off of them that way. So so you can't really win, except Google in this case really doesn't have any reason not to. They're Google, they're big enough that they can take a little bit of a hit. They're kind of a monopoly in this space. Yeah. So, they don't have a ton of competition that people are really like, yeah, So you're going to block me. I'm going to go to this other site that I'm going to go to Vimeo now, right?
Or Rumble.
I don't.
The
like,
only
I, you know, I
the
think
only
if you,
two real competitors in the space. Well, I guess three: Facebook Watch, Vimeo, and Rumble. And together, they don't pose a challenge to YouTube.
right. So they're big enough to get away with this.
Mm-hmm.
For one, they're big enough to get away with it, and sure, like they should absolutely do it. I agree with them. Now, I would love to see, but again, this is one of those things where you'd have to have some cooperation between publishers, like some of the issues that we're seeing with AI, where, hey, if the Associated Press is going to go make a deal with OpenAI, well, that's good for them, but then what does it do for everybody else?
Right.
Well, if one publisher decides, hey, I'm just going to block people who are on ad blockers, they have to kind of weigh that against, well, someone may go elsewhere. Now, what we are seeing partially as a result of ad blockers is we're seeing a lot more paywalls on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And those folks who think that they're being smart by using ad blockers, what they're doing is they're making the problem inherently worse, right? It's like, but of course they're not making it worse for themselves in the immediate, right? It's like people who go to the store and they shoplift, right?
Right.
The fact that the price of goods goes up because people are shoplifting is no, bother to them, right? But they might say, if you catch them shoplifting, well, this was so expensive, that's why I shoplifted or whatever. So,
but interestingly,
like, that's what's going on with ads.
If we follow that analogy, let's look at San Francisco, where shoplifting has become such a problem that retailers are pulling out of the city entirely. Right? Like 7 CVSs have closed, 7 or 8 Walgreens have closed, grocery stores have closed, and it's now there are other ones as well, but this can push publishers and content creators out of the market as well. With ad blockers.
Absolutely.
That was where I was headed with
that. Absolutely, right. It can push. So it also makes the ads that are there more aggressive, right? Because which of course makes more people want to use ad blockers, right? But hey, if I can't, if only because if you look at a lot of sites, a significant amount of their traffic, it's not like a handful. It can be a significant amount of your traffic. It could be half or more than half of your traffic is people using ad blockers. So now you've got the other 30% who are not using ad blockers, and by all means, you could say to them, "Wow, I'm really sorry. Let me give you very few ads." But unfortunately, to continue to make money, you might have to bombard them with more ads.
Right.
So if people are seeing, I don't know exactly what the numbers are for different sites. I don't know what they are for my site or whatever, but I know that they are significant percentages for a lot of sites. I know it's not like 5% or 10%. I know it's up there in the tens of percents for most websites.
In 2019, the statistic was 25% of web browsers.
Right, and that's going to obviously vary on a per topic basis, right? So if you have a site with a very high tech audience that knows how to use ad blockers, you're probably going to see a lot more than 25%. But if you have a site that's very low tech, people not really know what not very tech savvy or whatever, then maybe it'll be less than 25%. But anyway, that's a lot of shrinkage. That's a lot of shrink in the, what they say in the retail term, when you lose inventory. So that's a lot. And so you're seeing more and more sites kind of combat this by going behind paywall, by putting thing behind paywalls, at which point a lot of times the advertising is not that it's not that important anymore because they're giving you an ad-free or light ad experience when you pay. So
Right.
I think that it might behoove more sites to actually take this approach and say, hey, you can't view this content if you have an ad blocker on, and be willing to to take the hit. But they'll take a hit, right? They'll take a hit of traffic, and there will be angry people, because there's always people who are like, how dare you, I was visiting your site and you should be happy that I visited your site or watched your video or read your content, even though I didn't allow you to make any money to compensate you for your work, right? Because there are a lot of people who are.
It's literally the same argument as AI.
Right. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, there's argument in favor of like, yeah, you should be happy that I stole your stuff. It's not a pleasant argument. We could have very well done another talk about AI, and this week the News Media Alliance issued a really excellent white paper that I recommend everybody read, which cites one of my articles, although it cites many things. And their point is that not only are facts being taken from news articles, but the expression, the phrases, the actual wording itself is being taken, and therefore there's no way that this is fair use, and they should be compensated. So, but anyway, yes, I think it's great what Google is doing. They are in a uniquely strong position to do it, though. And I'd like to see them do it more. I'd like to see them do it with the ads that are on their that are on their search pages. I'd like to see them do it with AdSense or something. Maybe if you carry AdSense ads, then it'll pop up a blocker, and then a lot of websites will have to enforce this because they want to keep running AdSense. And I think people are going to be unhappy, but listen, sometimes you have to do stuff when people are are stealing your work, and unfortunately there'll be some very nice people who will say, but I don't like seeing ads, and why should I have to see them, and we'll be mad. But it's the same thing with like the password sharing on Netflix, right? Like, you weren't supposed to be sharing your password with people, and they cracked down on it. Like, and some people were annoyed, but most people, I think, probably realized that they were getting away with something, and they can't get away with it anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously we have a direct dog in this fight, and it's probably also why we've both been so passionate on the AI topic. We have it impacts us directly, and I like seeing it. I like what they're doing. I know it's annoying some people, and oh well. I guess is my takeaway there. It's their platform. They're allowed to enforce their rules. They have rules. They've always had rules, and now they're enforcing them. So, good on them. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always appreciate our live listeners and viewers. If you didn't and would like to in the future, Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us. If you're not able to join us live, that's okay as well. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows. PLUGHITZ F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. Speaking of, I know our regular listeners and viewers know that I have been on a personal journey to recover some lost media. And this week, another 53 episodes of a past CES were found and redeployed, so very excited about that. We're getting closer to a full restoration of the back catalog. If you're interested, the backstory on that, hit me up on social media. I'm happy to go into detail on it. But yeah, another 53 episodes were restored this past week. I'm very excited. So I think it was CES 2013, if I remember correctly. But anyway, very excited about that, and I think there's some more to be found. We are going through hard drives, stacks and stacks and stacks of hard drives, looking for content. But there's also new content coming. You may have seen a how-to video this week. There's another one coming probably Tuesday, and then just off camera, I have a stack of products for unboxings that will be coming over the next week as well. So lots of new stuff coming, so be excited about that. And with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you back next time. Ciao.